I was asked to present, to make a short introduction and share some experiences on how to become a business angel and start investing in startups. If you can go to the next slide. So just a little bit about myself. My name is Aquin. I'm originally from Bolivia, but I've been living here in Czech Republic for many years. Long story short, at least the story I like to tell is that my wife, I met my wife in the US when traveling. She's originally from the Czech Republic. She wanted to bring a souvenir for her family, and she brought me here. So that's at least the version I like to say. When I moved to the Czech Republic, I began working in some international companies and corporates, but it was always in my heart to run my own business and become an entrepreneur. And together with my wife in 2013, we decided to do so, and we actually find a very interesting idea that it was transformed and converted to a concept that we like to introduce here in the Czech Republic and the fitness industry. It has nothing to do with us being, a fitness enthusiast, but we just saw that it was a really great opportunity. We built the brand called Body Body and transformed into a fitness franchise. And now we are present in most cities in the Czech Republic and also support the expansion in the Slovak Republic. But it was always in my mind that wanted to do a bit more than just running the business, but also be involved in different other ideas and explore the startup world. And that's how I actually came together with a friend of mine in his pursuit of the same vision, which was to start up in the field of something that we really like, which was the outdoors. So I joined the company Outdoor Visit. At first, I thought it would be my participation more like an angel investor, but I soon become over there as part of the team and co-founder of the startup. In this experience, I learned good things and bad things, and that I would like to share, and I will share later on in the slides. During that time and previously, I was also being exposed to several different opportunities and startups that they were looking for investors, angel investors, or support, or coaching, or mentoring. And that actually drive me to the path that I follow since then. And it was actually to start investing into startups. Together with a group of angel investors, we have created a company called Skokani, where we all invested our own money into projects that we liked and we like to support. In this scope, the group of, and you'll see it in the next slides as well, we have shared a lot of visions on terms of how we can support better the projects, and that actually derivated to the situation where we actually found additional partners which were sharing the same vision, and we decided to join forces, and we got together into a Star Guide, being a VC fund as well as a startup accelerator. Next slide. Now, this is enough about me. I want to go into the topics which I think is more interesting for you guys as well. And I have divided it into four different points. The first one being what is the actual role of the business angel into the startup. Then the next point will be how to find the right startup, or where to look for it, and how to start investing into the startups. And then the third point will be about the evaluation. There is many talks about it, whether if it's the startups are showing the right evaluation, how to actually get to the right numbers from your own, or how to evaluate the startups. And then some tips as a summary at the end. Okay, now talking about the role of the startup. You can move to the next slide. first of all, if you are is thinking to start investing in a startup, something you have to bear in mind is that doing starting your business angel, I would say, career, is like starting a new company. In like anything, investing into a startups or starting any company, it drives some risk. It's also time consuming. That's something you have to bear in mind. Every time you're going to be investing into any startup, it's going to take some given time, not just on the process of investment, but also on the support and help that's expected from you as a business angel. Then another part will be the dealing with the team, working with people. As a business angel, you're gonna be, very much involved on discussions with the founders on directions and so on. And you really have to work, have that really these people skills set up if you want to push the business further as well. But overall, being a business angel is really rewarding because you feel you are actually part of something new, which has a big which can generate good returns, but at the same time can make some great impact to society. Next slide. Here, there are a couple of, I just highlights a couple of points in each side of the scope on things which is expected from the startup and from founders, what is expected from of the business angel, in the areas on where you should be careful and not to do. So basically, the things that you should do or expected to do, and things to avoid when investing into startups. Obviously, what is expected from you is to come out with the money to help the founders in the startup project. Share your business connections. This is very important because that's where it's gonna help the generate the first either outcomes from the business or even the revenues. You have to really think very carefully about your the investment strategy when investing to a startup. You cannot you should think ahead with the founders what will be the future runs to come. You have to be able to give some advices and mentorship to the founders. That's also really expected from the business knowledge and experience that you have and you have gathered, and share this and pass it to them. Now, one thing things that you should avoid when investing to startups is at the beginning, especially, is taking too much equity. This one here will harm the business and yourself along the way. Why? Because in many cases I have seen some cap tables of some projects where the angel investor or the business angel has too much equity, and they're leaving very segmented the cap table for within the founders for the next rounds, and that can be very complicated for future fundraising. Another point to be careful is when getting involved with the startup is for you to become the CEO. You are there to support, mentor, and guide and help, but not to take the role of the manager or the managing of the company. Remember, the investing with the startups means like the startups will have several rounds until they actually reach the their potential, and you are in the very beginning of this round. Don't get too much into details. Look at it, the big picture, and that's something that is also very important. Usually the founders or the team members of the startups, they are really looking, they are very submerged into details. And it's always good to have a point of view from someone who understands the business, but at the same time has a really clear picture of where is driving the the project, and that's where the angel investor should be taking part on. In terms of the decision making, be part of the decision making, but not don't become the decision maker. Again, you are betting or you are investing on the team and the chemistry, on the potential of the investors, on the potential of the staff and the team members to run the operations further. So you are there to support, mentor, but not to overtake the responsibility of making the decisions. Okay. Next, one more point here. The last point is don't provide more money than necessary. You have to really balance your position when investing into startups. For instance, from my side and together with my partners, we have put a limit on terms of how much money we invest into early stage startups, or in practically to almost all our investments we have done. Is to invest between 50 to 100,000 euros. Why? Because we see that we also bring a different value to the project, and we like to actually give access or to give a room for other investors, other angel investors or consortiums or VCs to join in and bring some additional added value to the project. I think that brings more value than money. Now, where do you see, where actually is expected to be the angel investment? Where is the ecosystem, or which part of the whole, let's say, timeline of the startup? Where is the position where the angel investor should be? It is at the beginning. In some cases, you will join to some projects in a bit more advanced stage, like either a seed or bridge investment. But most commonly, business angels are looking for very early stage projects, either idea stage, a pre-seed stage, or pre-MVP, or during the MVP. And the main core here is like actually to the money you invest and the help you provide is to overcome the first phase of the project and start generating the first, let's say, revenues or getting the first sales or connections or getting the MVP ready for growth or for expansion. And then connecting the startup and to the next the future investors. Either it's going to be a larger a consortium of business angels or VCs who will join and will start investing to the project, and looking at it again, what will be the next stage, which is the expand and grow, and then getting the first profits or getting into the new regions and so on and so forth. Next slide. Now, how the angel investor or business angel invest. Typically, an angel investor who is actually experienced investor who has already done it several times over, it's very common that they will invest either alone into one project, or they will join some other angel investors in a consortium or syndicate to invest. Now, if you are thinking to start investing in the startups, I will definitely recommend to join some of these groups or clubs, investment clubs, consortiums, syndicates, or even an accelerator, so you can actually learn the whole process of choosing the right startups, as well as like the type of the due diligence which is need to be going through, and the processes of investment, and afterwards the type of support which is expected from you and from other investors. So before even you start investing directly to a startup, spend some time in these areas or in accelerators, or following some of these investment programs, so you actually understand how the other investors are investing into the projects. Okay, next slide. Now, a good strategy when investing into startups is basically to diversify your portfolio. During the I put here, for instance, one example. Out of 10 projects you will invest in the period of 5 to 10 years, depending of the budget you have and obviously the time you can devote to the startup. You should also put into account that around 40 to 50% of your projects that you invest, they will be either bring you some return or none, no return on your investment. 20 to 30% of your portfolio will have some average performing in some multiple of on your return times 2 or 4, which is still is good, but it's very small percentage of these investments they will actually generate the money, and it will make the average of the entire portfolio between 12 to 15% per annum growth. Now, it is a way to actually be able to get this average in the exposure and actually your diversification more how's called tangible with less risk. It will be actually participating in some of these how's called as I mentioned just before in the previous slide, some of these clubs where you actually invest a smaller amount with other angel investors, and you can actually diversify with not so much exposure. Next slide. Okay, how to find the right startup? First of all, you need to understand, where you are investing, what type of company you are looking at. It has happened. It happens in the past. I mean, it happens to many of us that we looking into invest into a startup, and at the end, it's actually become this startup to SME. And an easy way, or well, at least the way we like to look at it is on the structure of the company. Both businesses at the beginning they need the money, but in a startup will actually will require several rounds of investments before they reach their peak. Um, Startups looks they are not really much focused at the beginning on the profit. It's more focused on the growth and to get this hockey stick growth. While on the other hand, SMEs they are more looking in cost optimization, and they are more oriented on profits, and their growth is more linear. Now, the scalability on the startups is much more on terms of the services or products they have. So in the penetration, how they sell it in the market, while actually SMEs are more based on the team and not so much on the product and actually managing the business. Now, the potential on terms of market share, of course, startups has more potential to get a market share or create a new market space, while SMEs they are actually working with the same market standards, but they are able to manage their business better or finding the better way to manage. With that in mind, then in the next slide. Uh, Here are certain principles or criteria to look when investing into a startup in any type of industry. First of all, is the whether if this project or product or service, this startup is facing or really solving a real problem. If the problem is painful enough and the idea and the solution is so great, then it has a potential to grow and to sell. For example, when looking into Airbnb, for instance, the problem is very clear, and the solution also done how's called presented in a very clear way. That's why the penetration scalability is shown over time in every market they penetrate. The every startup, they should have some unique value proposition or some unique selling proposition as well. So if you are having a startup which is able to sell their solution, it has much bigger chance to grow. The scalability. If when looking on the startups, you have to look on the way that the business itself it can be replicated, meaning internally in other regions, and it will not have so much barriers of entry to be able to grow itself. Their business model has to be clear, and the market potential it should be really achievable. All this is connected with a go-to-market strategy. Now, one thing that I mentioned to most of our startup founders when they're presenting their go-to-market strategy, many times they are reflecting what it is in their in numbers where they want to be, but they don't really have a clear path how to get there. So one way to do it is basically looking at the market in their go-to-market strategy. Look at it on the middle term or in long term, and start from the let's say from the third year backwards to see how did they get there. So in other words, let's imagine to have, like, for instance, a navigation in your car. You put the destination, which is, let's say, Prague, in the origin, let's say, Liberec, right? So the navigation will calculate the path, how to get to your destination. The same way it should be done when you're doing your go-to-market strategy. You have to really visualize where you want to be in the period of time that you making the business plan, where you want to be in terms of clients, sales, revenues, regions, penetration, and growth, and then start describing backwards what you have done to get there, and that will guide you more clearly the path how to get there. You can have many detours, but the result is always going to be the same way. Another part, very important part when choosing a startup is actually the team, choosing the right team. Now, choosing the right team becomes a really challenge, because many times, you believe that the founders are the right people to scale this business further, but then we soon realize that the founders are very great visionaries, but they don't know how to manage the growth. So you have to be careful with that. You have to be always asking all the right questions and see with what type of how their team is developing and growing, and even if they have within their strategy, as well as their fundraising strategy or the go-to-market strategy, they had to have a clear way of how is their HR strategy, how they're gonna attract the great talent to the project to grow further. Now, how to look for the startup or where to find it? Well, one way is obviously follow and connect some groups where startups are talking, or it is the topic of startups. Participating into some pitch events or demo nights, which they are usually, you can find it through social media or participating in some of these groups. Also, make yourself visible in the social media, like meaning LinkedIn, that you are an angel investor and you're looking for investing in the startups. Show your ambition to your network, because you never know from which side you're going to start seeing or receiving some good leads. Making yourself available into mentorship, and try to really make yourself visible in this area. Follow successful business angels or people who has already invested several times over into the startups, to see what sort of criterias and business trends they follow and what type of principles they follow as well, and learn from that. Look at the industry on which in which you are experienced on, because that's the industry you can actually be able to evaluate better your position and how much of your time and effort you can provide in this site, and follow the business trends and technology. Not always you're going to be investing in something that you are very skilled or knowledgeable on. Sometimes you find some really opportunistic or opportunities in areas which you don't have the set of skills. But commonly, the startups at the early stage, the most of them, they face similar how's it called, the challenges, like fine tuning the go to market strategy, setting up their the long term what's called fundraise vision, penetrating other markets, and so on, reaching the first sales, the first revenues, and so on. So these are common in most industries, and in these areas, if you feel that you can bring some clarity and support, that's the area where you can you should also be looking into these type of startups as well. Now, I just mentioned some I think repeated times about the investment strategy. Where the angel investor is most commonly joining or participating or entering, and it's basically the very first stage of the road of the startup, which is either they are in the idea stage, pre-seed, pre-MVP round. And they require, obviously, not just the money, but also the expertise from yourself. Then be looking for a reasonable evaluation. We're going to talk about it in the next slides. But when many times the startups, they come out with some evaluation which is completely unreasonable or very inflated, or they don't even know how to calculate that. And the last part on your investment strategy is that you really have to look on where will be your exit phase from the startup, because the startup, it can the need of the angel investor and the startup can really finish in the next or in the 2 rounds afterwards, where actually other investors can bring a bigger value than yourself in that. Okay. In terms of evaluation, I mean, is to be able to evaluate in a startup. I divide it in 4 criteria. Whether if the idea makes sense, if there is any good market opportunity, if it is actually bringing a good business opportunity, the market evaluation is real, and if I'm expecting good returns from the project. But in other words, I mean, there are several methods of how to calculate some evaluation. And I think in the next slide, we're going to be mentioning a few of them. When when to calculate the evaluation based on the performance of the startup. Now, there are 2 types of startups here. I mean, stages in the startups where most of the time the angel investors or business angels join in, and it's either in a very early stage, pre-money stage, or when the startup is already running and already having some revenues or some sales or some traction. Yeah. So in the early stage, you have to be looking more into the future on what can you expect from the business to be, whether if the idea makes sense, if the team makes sense, if the market situation, the market penetration makes sense, and if there are several milestones that you can easily draw when discussing and planning the project. And the other way to calculate the valuation is on running already running startups is based on the history and the predictions. So basically, looking of what it was the first revenues and having some multiple according to the potential of where they can be. Yeah. Next slide. So the evaluation method that most commonly we use together with my partners is this venture capital method. Basically, this can be used either pre-money or post-money way. Uh, and usually is that, we are looking into the project when they are in this house called zero revenue or with some revenues. Today, what is the money they require, how much revenues they will actually make during the year, that particular year, and then make some multiple of the revenues, multiple 5 to 7 depends on the project and the potential, and that's when it comes the valuation and what will be the equity will be given to the investment we have. This is only a very basic calculation. From here, you can also discuss on some other ways on discounts from some minimum cap, maximum cap, and when talking about future revenues. Now there are other evaluation methods like the scoring method or the Berkus method or the risk factor summation method. Basically, just I didn't create a separate slides for this because I think it's very important that each investor should really study these methods very carefully, very thoroughly before making any investment. But just to give you a little bit of insights on these three methods is like for instance, the scoring method is when actually you are looking at comparable with other businesses which already existed in the same category or let's say geography. So by looking on how the other businesses are doing, you can actually be able to calculate some evaluation, but take into account of obviously the size of the opportunity, the technology, the product, the management, the strengths and weakness the team has in this phase. Another way to be able to calculate the method is this Berkus method, which is basically giving certain values to different categories on which the startup can be, let's say, quantified or calculated through. Either the sum of the idea, if it is very innovative, if they have some prototype or some MVP, some product already, what is the quality of the team, the knowledge and experience and the team might have, the strategy in terms of relationships or market strategy they have, or the type of partnerships they have achieved or they are in their pipeline. And out of that is basically is to evaluate the project from 0 obviously to 2.5 million US dollars. Now, the risk factor summation is basically a combination of both, but this is more for how's called a investor who has more experience and more time to really to evaluate all both aspects in combination, the scoring method and the Berkus method. It takes a lot of time, obviously, and I wouldn't even tell you which method is the right one. You have to really see the through case by case. But I think this is just a really, I would say, easy examples to share with you guys now. When talking about valuation, I mean, one thing we have to be careful is the inflation and the valuation. This one here, at least from the past few years, we have seen the evaluations are, over the roof in terms of startups. Even in the idea stage, are already asking for crazy money. Some things that we had to be careful when looking into any evaluation is simply looking into the long-term vision in terms of the scalability of the business and if it's going to be investable enough in the next stage. The bigger the valuation, the bigger pressure from the investors. Basically, if you if you invest in a project where you an idea stage project, which is, for instance, they have an evaluation of 3 million or 4 million euros, but they haven't yet made any sales or any revenues, and they got investors betting or investing on this project. Obviously, they will add a lot of pressure to the founders because the investors will want to see it through. Also, another problem with the high evaluation is that the bigger the valuation, the more money they are able to fundraise or to get, and the more money they are actually wasting in the startups. In many cases, when the startup is asking for too much money, they are not so careful on managing the money they get, and that can be also drive a problem in the future for the project. Large evaluation of the startup, it makes the startup uninvestable. It happens from time to time that when the project in such early stage gets to a high evaluation, obviously for the next round, it's expected for the first investors to make some multiple. And the pressure from the investor to have actually raise the evaluation for the next investors might make the project not attractive enough to join in. And it's the same thing when the investor and in this early stage gets too much equity. Also, when the investor has too much equity and the cap table is too small, even with a higher evaluation, it will make actually questionable whether if the project will be the founders and the project will be motivated enough to run the project successfully or not. A quick summary here. So basically, if to remember when investing or into any project and any startup is really to see what is the role of the business angel, what is the role of the investor into the ecosystem, into the startup. You have to define very well to what extent you're going to be involved in the project on a day-to-day basis. What are the type of skill sets are expected from the business angel when entering into the project, and also to define very well when your involvement is what is the ceiling, what is the limit of your involvement. Finding the right startup is very important. It's hard to say really which industry will come the next unicorn. It's more about where you feel that you can bring the most value to the project and where the project can bring you more value at the end as well. Always think about when investing, think about the future and not how much equity you get now. Always look into what will be the next rounds to come and how you can help to reach a great performance and great evaluation at the end. If you like some project and you fell in love with on the founders, on the project and the idea, challenge it. And challenge it by consulting with some people from the market, get not just the positive opinions but also the negative opinions, and really challenge it over and over before you actually make the final step in investing in the project. This is only like really some I would say quick ideas of you how you can actually try to build a strong portfolio for your investments. All right, so I thought it will take me longer, but it looks like it was much quicker. So I think there's more room for questions here. I will try to answer with the best of my knowledge. I want to thank you guys for your time, for listening to me. I hope I was not boring.
Thank you very much. Maybe I have a logistical question.
Yes.
Would the slides be available?
Adam?
From my side, there is no problem. We can also share the whole presentation of your scene. So if you don't mind, we can share the presentation and also the recording. The recording will be for sure on our web page, and I can send you the presentation.
Thank you very much. That would be appreciated.
Yeah, any given time, Arthur, if you want to connect with me, you will have my contact details there. If you want to discuss further, if you have some particular questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you very much. And maybe if that's okay, I have other questions.
Sure.
When you're speaking about the networks or syndicates, I'm just curious to know where to find them, or if you have some networks in mind already, or
well, there are several projects. For instance, just the project here run by Michal and Adam. They have it's a consortium of so they can introduce you with some projects and startup projects in early stage as well, and you can co-invest with some other investors there with a smaller amount. But there's also some other accelerators and consortiums or syndicates that you can also invest through. Here in Czech Republic, there are quite a few. So I believe in Barcelona and France as well, there will be some. We are preparing also our accelerator program connected with our investment fund. So I'm also will be willing to help you if you want. So.
Thank you very much. And for example, when it comes to those groups, I know of some websites from like a long time ago, like for example, Angel List, but I'm not sure if that's something that you track, or maybe the fact that it's US based creates some limitations, and I'm not sure. It's just the most famous one that I know about, but I don't know if that's something that
me personally, I don't have any positive or negative experience doing that. Usually, I like to invest in projects that's been presented to me directly. Either have joined some syndicates locally here, where they presented some projects. They were actually contacted by to them directly, and then we did a similar process. Like any other investments, we participated into the pitch demo night or demo day, where several of startups were presented. If we feel we got interested in any of those ideas, we do some follow-ups. I got connected with them. I talk with the founders directly, and if I like what I see, and the organizers is organizing the syndicate, or then how's called the invitation is extended to the investors as well.
Thank you. If you want, I have more questions.
Go ahead.
Yeah. In terms of number of investments, is there some recommendation, or to decrease the risk? Basically, we assume that
depends of the money available you have for investments. Diversification is the key. This is you can diversify throughout many investments opportunities, either real estate, commodities, and so on and so forth. But in terms of startups, as I mentioned in one of my slides, for you to be able to make some good diversification, I would recommend to keep in mind to invest between 7 to 10 startups. In that way, you can really have some good average results. With that in mind, I mean, you should be putting aside on investment between 250 to 1 million euros that you can allocate for this type of investments. Now, if you do investments through consortiums, clubs, or syndicates, or accelerators like we have, your exposure will be lower in terms of capital, but the actual portfolio can be more extended because you will be investing together with other investors. All business angel investors do this way as well. Yeah. So before they start investing directly, and investing between 50 to 250,000 euros or dollars into one project, is very often the investors that start investing first into these groups or clubs.
Yeah, for me that would be the focus at the beginning, and then I'm curious to know what is the minimum, or what is the typical ticket through a group.
Depends. It depends. I mean, there are groups which are taking from 5,000 euros investment, up to 50 to 100. Depends really on the size of investment that's required for the startup, as well as the size of the syndicate ticket they want to have. Usually, or consortium of syndicates, which investing in one specific startup. They look to invest between 50 to 150,000 euros. So that's pretty much the range on what they go for. But now this is investing directly to one particular startup. Now, if you want to really work into your diversification, I would definitely recommend you to go to work with those startups which already have some portfolio, or they are building a portfolio, and your investment, let's say 100,000 that you will put over there, will be divided by the portfolio existing and future portfolio of the project. And that way you do have a good diversification, and also you can actually learn more about the strategies, how they've been investing through that.
Thank you. And if that's okay, I can ask another one.
Please.
In terms of return, you were speaking about, I think, like 12 or so % per year annualized, I think. But I'm assuming it varies very much between different groups of investors. And so I'm curious to know if you have more data on what to expect. What would be like a very good investor? What would be a more normal investor? What would be
It's a lot to do with the startups, right? Because even in the most experienced investors or VC funds, which they have the team and the whole ecosystem and the structure, how to filter from good to bad startups, they go by the same type of average. It's the quantity in terms of that, where it will drive your returns. Obviously, every investor is a business investor, or any investor who invested into startups. They expect several multiples to get in return in a certain period of time. You have to bear in mind that for you to be able to see some money from the startup, it's not going to be immediately. It's going to take a period of 7 to 10 years before you actually get some reasonable money from the project. In paper, your investment might look very promising. If you find, or if you get lucky enough and invested in a unicorn, or what's close to be, where the multiples are 100, 200, then in paper will look great, but you're only going to liquidate once actually you sell out, or the business, somebody buys your shares from that, and then you can actually get the money from that. Now, it varies really from project to project on where you invest, and that's why I say you have to be very careful on how much equity you ask at the beginning, because that can also really ultimately damage the possibilities to get other rounds of investment. Nobody wants, no investors in the next rounds will want to have debt equity, somebody holding a debt equity in the project. And if you look at it on you want to do investments in with a long-term perspective, like, meaning like you want to diversify in different projects, it's always try to see where is the middle range where you can exit the project, make some good money from that, and reinvest into another project and build from that more and more larger portfolio as well.
Thank you. And maybe then, for example, the 12 or so percent figure that you were speaking about, is that some industry standard that you saw, or is that based on your experience? Or
this is in terms, for instance, in what an angel investor will expect in terms of their portfolio direct investments, when you have to actually filter from having 25 30 presentations per week, and then you reduce it to really potential investments to one or two, and then you push it through, and you within the giving time you actually invested into 7 to 10 projects within the 5 years period. This percentage is basically what you should be expecting as an average. As I say, when you see the 50% of your projects might not be as successful as you would imagine, they're actually generating very low return, because investing in a startup is risky. We all know that. I mean, they are great ideas, but then at the end, the execution is not so flawless. But with the ambitions that you want to really have in your portfolio, good performing or average performing projects, and really good performing projects as well. So that's why diversification is key here. And the more diversified you are, the better chances you have to get a better return as well in the future.
Thank you.
I mean, it's not standard, by the way. The 12-15% is like, it's in the really in the bottom line.
Oh, but okay.
If you have like 10 projects, but again, you don't fall in love with the first startup and invest all your money there. Diversify in small amounts, and then can build up at the end to a greater amount later on. 30, 40 startups, it makes better numbers at the end.
Mm-hmm. The way I saw it, it seemed like the number was pretty good, pretty high. So I would have even assumed less. And it's just based on some study that I read like some time ago, but that was only for the VC world, I think, where they were just taking the average over like many VCs. So here it's hard to trust those studies because you never know exactly what they include or not. But they were saying that average return on investment was lower than that, like maybe like actually similar to stock market, as in like 8-9% or something.
Yeah, 9%. Yeah, it can happen as well, because also, bear in mind the angel investors or business angels are investing in a much early stage. So you are taking bigger risk, bigger reward. Right?
Mm-hmm.
VCs nowadays they tend to invest in much earlier stage than before, but usually VCs were more focused on already proven concepts, proven markets before, and that's what actually the drive of the inflation and the valuation of the startups, because a few years ago, a round investment was like between 2 to 4 million euros. And if you see 2020, 2021, the valuation went to 10 to 15 million euros valuation A round. So of course, the one thing is getting the valuation, another thing reaching these numbers in terms of revenues, it becomes harder. So that's why their average in terms of return is, they are rather smaller because they invest in higher quantity of money in or higher amounts in higher evaluations as well. When, on the other hand, you as a business angel, you take a majority of the risk at the beginning, so you have a chance, obviously, to get. And I would recommend to when negotiating equity, be very humble and take between 5 to 15%. 20 the top, even less. I would say if you keep in the range between 5 and 15%, is a good space to be. You are not damaging the potential of the startup to raise next investments. And like I said, on paper, your investment can become very interesting for in the future as well, and you can get a really nice return as well. Yeah, so it can be much higher than the 15%, but again, it goes case by case. I can promise you that.
And here you're speaking about 10-15%. I'm not speaking about ROI here, but you were speaking about of the deal. Is that correct? Or of the cap table? Is that what you meant? Or
sorry, when I mentioned cap table, meaning equity in terms of.
Yeah. Okay. So 10-15%, and that would be for.
I would say,
for
like
example,
depends on the project, in which stage they are now. Like I say, evaluations are changing a lot. In some projects are evaluated quite high. It's good to be, to enter into or to invest in a project when they are in a very early stage, pre-money, and then invested with the vision of post-money. For instance, an example, one way to go by this or to invest is to invest in a post-money evaluation with a credit note. Meaning like they promise they will make certain revenues this year, and they need this money. If they need this minimum money from you to make it to be able to reach or achieve this performance, right? So if you say, great, I give you the money as a convertible loan until the end of the year, and or the next fundraise, and if you are able to achieve the revenues you present me in your business plan, I will be converted, and I will get the proportion on the percentage. Or you can actually say as well, look, guys, if you perform less, I get higher equity, and if you perform better than what you forecasted, I get less equity. So in that way, you motivate the founders really to perform, make a positive pressure on them to perform better. So in that way, the equity can variate. And again, taking a small equity at the beginning, it actually can help the project in the future, because you're betting again the post-money evaluations. Asking for discount on evaluation is also very common. Yeah, when you're making a convertible note, there is a lot of risk involved, and you can always ask a discount from the evaluation they present to you, either 50%, 20%, 15%, depends of the criteria on which you believe is still is too inflated, or there's some risk attached to that as well.
Thank you.
John, I got a question for you. First of all, thank you for all the insight. I've always been on the other side, on the entrepreneur side, and not really. I haven't had experience with private funds. Always with Accelerator, Startup Chile, and Parallel 18, which I understand is different processes, right? So here in Argentina, I have an SME. We develop products, digital products for companies. In the best case, startups trying to become, trying to reach the MVP. We have one customer specifically. It's an SME. They give consultancy services to the health industry here. So they are established. They are working fine, and they've got this project, and where they want to create a startup out of the solution they built or the setup they've got. This is the first time that we're doing this kind of job, right? We are having meetings, we are developing the business project and the business model, and of course, fundraising is key in the startup path, right? Otherwise, you end up being an SME. My question is, how do you see this, or if you have any experience in projects that are, that came from a business that is already ongoing, an SME, and then they turn into this. I mean, and they are gonna be adding or setting the team, right? They putting the team in place. They have time and a little budget, not much, but I know that fundraising needs to be there on that path, right? And I'm thinking maybe an angel investor is not a. I mean, maybe the angel investor in this case is the SME, or maybe it's a good idea to go and show this to angels to validate the idea. I don't know. What's your thought on that?
Yeah. Thanks for the question. Very valid. And actually, I have seen in a few of our investments that we have, they come from the similar background. Basically, people from the industry running some business, they find some really opportunities where they can improve their business category and their geography and their industry. So it's the best way to actually how they can find the real need of the solution. So like I mentioned, one of the criteria we have when investing is whether if there is a real problem to be solved and the solution is really, it's not a nice to have, but it's actually a solution which can be reflected to many other businesses or in the same industry. So yes, it is very common that will happen, and yes, it is still a interesting project for an angel investor, because what do you look for from the SME to become a startup? It's a different change of mindset. The vision is completely different, and the business angel is an experienced investor who have already went through startups or invested in startups from different industries or the same industry, but in multiple times. Yeah, there's a difference between a business angel and actually angel investor. Angel investor can be a friend, family, somebody, a rich uncle, but a business angel is actually somebody who's gonna, hold your hand and help you, grow your business together, right, and get into the next fundraise. So with that in mind, yes, looking for an angel investment from the industry will be very, very interesting, very the right fit for it, especially from the medical field. If it's somebody who has already worked on the software engineer or have sold some businesses in this area, who knows the industry, who knows how the approvals or the barriers of entries are in that industry, who has done this, have run this path, it will be very good partner. And if the company, the SME is already generating some revenues, it's clearly that that company will not need they are not in so much pressure to get a big sum of money to run the project, but it gives an opportunity for the angel investor to come with some portion of money, some some sweat on it, as to say, but with the most important part, which is the knowledge and experience they can bring value to the project as well.
Right. And another question on this kind of project: is it normal that the SME participates on the cap table on any way?
Depends. I mean, is it gonna be a really complete separate entity, separate team, separate project, separate target group, and it's gonna be you have to really separate the two businesses. If it's gonna be completely clear separation of both businesses, and the head of the company doesn't have any conflict of interest on both companies. Yeah, I mean, it's possible to raise money for this startup, building the team, and go buy it. But on the other hand, if there is some connections between the two businesses, one is consultancy and the other one is the product, and the consultancy is using the product for the service, and most likely, I mean, for an investor, I would like to see all in one basket.
Right, absolutely. I see that's the scenario that is picturing now here on this project. So this is interesting that what you're saying. I mean, it gives me more tools to take to the table. Thank you very much.
No problem, my pleasure.
Thank you for your questions, guys. If there's anything else, you can ask freely if Sin has time, I think. But if anyone needs to go, I think we can leave. Yeah. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining. Sin, thank you for your presentation, for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you, guys, all for joining. Miha, Adam, for organizing this event and inviting me over. Please feel free to share to the participants either through to the chat or later on by email if there's anyhow to my contact details. So the Arthur, Alejandro, or anyone who can actually be able to reach out if there is any questions, or if you're looking to to expand your investment portfolio to this side of Europe, I'll be happy to assist as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much from my side, Arthur, Alejandro as well. Seeing I'm just waiting for my available money to become available. Then I can follow for your good practice as well in order to invest myself. It was great. Thank you very much for sharing.